नमोस्तु बोधिसत्वाय sambuddhaya namo namaha. Today is a thrice blessed day, the birth of one of the greatest human being ever born, the day of his parinirvana and also the day of his realization. Today we shall read a selected portion from the lecture of Swami Vivekananda on Buddha's message to the world, delivered in San Francisco on March 18th, 1900. Buddhism is historically the most important religion, historically, not philosophically, because it was the most tremendous religious movement that the world ever saw, the most gigantic spiritual wave ever to burst upon human society. There is no civilization on which its effect has not been felt in some way or other. The followers of Buddha were most enthusiastic and very missionary in spirit. They were the first among the adherents of various religions not to remain content with the limited sphere of their mother church. They spread far and wide. They traveled east and west, north and south. Buddhist priests went out teaching among the different nations, and as they taught, superstition and priestcraft began to vanish like mist before the sun. To understand this movement properly, you should know what conditions prevailed in India at the time Buddha came. At the time Buddha was born, India was in need of a great spiritual leader, a prophet. There was already a most powerful body of priests. But while the priests were flourishing, there existed also the poet prophets called sannyasins. So these poet prophets of ancient India repudiated the ways of the priest and declared the pure truth. They tried to break the power of the priests, and they succeeded a little. India was full of it in Buddha's day. There were the masses of people, and they were debarred from all knowledge. If just a word of the Vedas entered the ears of a man, terrible punishment was visited upon him. The priests had made a secret of the Vedas that contained the spiritual truths discovered by the ancient Hindus. At last, one man could bear it no more. He had the brain, the power, and the heart, a heart as infinite as the broad sky. He felt how the masses were being led by the priests and how the priests were glorifying in their power, and he wanted to do something for it. He did not want any power over anyone, and he wanted to break the mental and spiritual bonds of men. His heart was large, the heart many around us may have, and we also want to help others. But we do not have the brain. We do not know the ways and means by which help can be given. But this man had the brain to discover the means of breaking the bondages of the souls. He learned why men suffer, and he found the way out of suffering. He was a man of accomplishment. He worked everything out. He taught one and all without distinction and made them realize the peace of enlightenment. This was the man Buddha. You know from Arnold's poem, The Light of Asia, how Buddha was born a prince and how the misery of the world struck him deeply. How, although brought up and living in the lap of luxury, he could not find comfort in his personal happiness and security. How he renounced the world, leaving his princess and newborn son behind. How he wandered searching for truth from teacher to teacher, and how he at last attained to enlightenment. You know about his long mission, his disciples, his organizations. You all know these things. Buddha cut through all this. He preached the most tremendous truths. He taught the vast gist of the philosophy of the Vedas to one and all without distinction. He taught it to the world at large because one of his great messages was the equality of men. Men are all equal, no concession there to anybody. Buddha was the great preacher of equality. Every man and woman has the same right to attain spirituality. That was his teaching. The difference between the priests and the other castes he abolished. Even the lowest were entitled to the highest attainments. He opened the door of nirvana to one and all. His teachings was bold even for India. No amount of preaching can ever shock the Indian soul, but it was hard for India to swallow Buddha's doctrine. His doctrine was this: why is there misery in our life? Because we are selfish. We desire things for ourselves. That is why there is misery. What is the way out? The giving up of the self. The self does not exist. The phenomenal world, all this that we perceive, is all that exists. There is nothing called soul underlying the cycle of life and death. There is the stream of thought, one thought following another in succession. Even thought coming into existence and becoming non-existent at the same moment. That's all. There is no thinker of the thought, no soul. The body is changing all the time. So is mind, consciousness. The self, therefore, is a delusion. All selfishness comes of holding on to the self, to this illusory self. If we know the truth that there is no self, then we will be happy and make others happy. Hindus can give up everything except their God. To deny God is to cut off the very ground from under the feet of devotion. Devotion and God the Hindus must cling to. They can never relinquish these. And here, in the teachings of Buddha, are no God, no soul, simply work. What for? Not for the self, for the self is delusion. We shall be ourselves when this delusion has vanished. Very few are there in the world that can rise to that height and work for work's sake. Yet the religion of Buddha spread fast. It was because of the marvelous love which, for the first time in the history of humanity, overflowed a large heart and devoted itself to the service not only all men, but all living things. A love which did not care for anything except to find a way of release from suffering of all beings. This was the first time that turned to the other God, men. It is men that is to be loved. It was the first wave of intense love for all men, the first wave of true unadulterated wisdom that, starting from India, gradually inundated country after country, north, south, east, west. This teacher wanted to make truth shine as truth, no softening, no compromise, no pandering to the priests, the powerful, the kings, no bowing down before superstitious traditions, however hoary, no respect for forms and books just because they came down from the distant past. He rejected all scriptures, all forms of religious practice, even the very language Sanskrit, in which religion had been traditionally taught in India, he rejected, so that his followers would not have any chance to imbibe the superstitions which were associated with it. There is another way of looking at the truth we have been discussing, the Hindu way. We claim that Buddha's great doctrine of selflessness can be better understood if it is looked at in our way. In the Upanishads, there is already the great doctrine of Atman. The Atman, self, is the same as Brahman, the Lord. This self is all that is. It is the only reality. Maya, delusion, makes us see it as different. There is one self, not many. That one self shines in various forms. Man is man's brother because all men are one. A man is not only my brother, say the Vedas, he is myself. Hurting any part of the universe, I only hurt myself. I am the universe. It's a delusion that I think I am Mr. So-and-so. That is the delusion. The life of Buddha has a special appeal. All my life, I have been very fond of Buddha, but not of his doctrine. I have more veneration for that character than for any other, that boldness, that fearlessness, and the tremendous love. He was born for the good of men. Others may seek God, others may seek truth for themselves. He did not even care to know truth for himself. He sought truth because people were in misery. How to help them, that was his only concern. Throughout his life, he never had a thought for himself. How can we, ignorant, selfish, narrow-minded human beings, ever understand the greatness of this man? 600 years before the birth of Christ, at the time when Buddha lived, the people of India must have had wonderful education. Extremely free-minded they must have been. Great masses followed him. Kings gave up their thrones, queens gave up their thrones. People were able to appreciate and embrace his teachings. So revolutionary, so different from what they had been taught by the priests, though through the ages. But their minds have been unusually free and broad. And consider his death. If he was great in life, he was also great in death. He ate food offered to him by a member of a race similar to your American Indians. Hindus do not touch them because they eat everything indiscriminately. He told his disciple, "Do not eat this food, but I cannot refuse it. Go to the man and tell him, he has done me one of the greatest services of my life. He has released me from the body." An old man came and sat near him. He had walked miles and miles to see the master, and Buddha taught him. When he found a disciple weeping, he reproved him, saying, "What is this? Is this the result of all my teachings? Let there be no false bondage, no dependence on me, no false glorification of this passing personality. The Buddha is not a person, he is a realization. Work out your own salvation." Even when dying, he would not claim any distinction for himself. "I worship him for that. What you call Buddhas and Christs are only the names of certain states of realization. Of all the teachers of the world, he was the one who taught us most to be self-reliant, who freed us not only from the bondages of our false selves, but from dependence on the invisible being or being called God or gods. He invited everyone to enter into the state of freedom, which he called nirvana. All must attain to it one day, and that attainment is the complete fulfillment of men. Swamiji has given many lectures on the life and the teachings of Buddha. As we heard from the beginning, in the first part of his lecture, that he loves this personality, but not the doctrine, not the philosophy of Buddhism. This doesn't reduce his devotion and appreciation and love for Buddha. There is a, which he mentioned during the lecture also. The philosophy of Buddha, which says, as Swamiji told, not to believe in any God as such, but believe in yourself. But as it said, that most of us cannot hold on to, which is not being perceived by us. There is an incident, all you know, when Swamiji started mission also after a lot of struggle in his mind, when he was to consecrate Sri Ramakrishna in Belur Math, at that time also he had a doubt, and he said, "I'm afraid that around the name of Sri Ramakrishna, I do not want that a sect should be formed, because Sri Ramakrishna was beyond any kind of sectarian ideas." Similarly, from that logic only he says that he loves the personality of Buddha, his encompassing love for everyone. Why he says that he doesn't accept his doctrine or his philosophy? In one place, very interesting simile he uses and says Hinduism is that religion of which Christianity is the distant echo and Buddhism is a rebel child. Why? Because Buddha rejected the authority of Vedas. So he rejected Sanskrit also. But this he knew, understood. He understood that there is a very small conversation between the young Narendranath, Swami Vivekananda, when he comes to Sri Ramakrishna. When Swamiji told to Sri Ramakrishna, the Buddha did not realize. That's why he could not say whether God exists or not. Buddha was asked whether God exists. He said, I didn't say so. Then you say God doesn't exist. Buddha said, I didn't say that either. So Swami Vivekananda told to Sri Ramakrishna, that means Buddha did not realize the truth. Sri Ramakrishna says, what do you say? Buddha means awakened. Actually, he had realized the truth, because truth is unspeakable. You cannot say that God exists or do not exist. That is a big philosophy, comes in Kenopanishad also. In a very simple way, if we want to understand this, is there anything which we cannot say that it exists, and also we cannot say that it doesn't exist? Is there anything in between existence and non-existence? Simple. Whatever we can perceive, whatever is our object of perception, this is our object of perception. So we say this exists. There is something which is not object of our perception, so we say that doesn't exist. But there is something which is me in essence, I in essence, which is beyond perception and non-perception. We understand, realize, and continuously feel our own existence. There is no way to objectify it. The eternal subject, that is Atman and that is Brahman according to Upanishads and all that. Because of that standpoint, Swamiji says, I do not accept the doctrine of Buddha. Swamiji in one place says, that's why Buddhism is more spread outside India than within India. The reason being non-acceptance of the Vedic truth, that eventually it is Brahman which exists, Atman which exists. Looks very silly, but there is a debate between Adi Shankaracharya and the Buddhist scholar of his time. As Buddhism doesn't believe in existence of an objective God or even a subjective God, which is called nihilism, or it's not atheism, but it is nihilism, that nothing exists. Shankaracharya, while debating with a Buddhist scholar, says, only that exists who realize that nothing exists. To say that nothing exists, there must be somebody, there must be some existence who realizes that truth. That exists, and that is called Atman. So this is the little small philosophical difference is there. Why Buddha would have done that? We have no idea, of course. But if you want to imagine, with Swamiji little mentions in his lecture, that he wanted people to be free, at least free from initial bondages of his life. So his first realization is, first accept that there is suffering. Then accept that there is cause of suffering. And then accept that there is a way to be released from that cause of suffering. That he wanted to teach. And he came to this conclusion that it is desire, which in Buddhist literature says tanha or trishna, desire. It is the desire which also in Hinduism, in all the saints, prophets, Sri Ramakrishna, Mother, Swamiji, everywhere we find it. It is the desire which makes a person bound. This simple truth, without any philosophical quoting and without making things difficult for people to understand, he made it so simple that do good, be good. Be happy, make others happy. Compassion, love, that is what is required. Keep all other philosophy later. This was a big boost to the human being. We all talk maybe big philosophies, but it is of no use if I cannot step forward from where I am. Buddha pushed the humanity many steps forward towards the realization. Today is a great day, and it is, Swamiji says, that one of the greatest human being ever born in form of Lord Buddha. Look at the way Buddhism has spread everywhere. Philosophy very few Buddhists know except handful of monks. But people who follow Buddhism, and here is the limitations of human mind. Buddha did not believe in any god. So they made Buddha himself God and started worshipping. Because we can't be free from that. Actually, before the birth of Lord Buddha, Hinduism or Vedantism or Sanatana Dharma was holding on to this truth. Even in our Vedas, Upanishad says, Natasya pratima asti. There is nothing equivalent to him. In Hinduism, there is no statue. In Hinduism, photograph of course came much later. There is no temple in Hinduism. Read Bhagavad Gita, read Upanishad. There is not a single word which means statue or temple. But Hinduism's greatness is for being relevant, for being continuously finding a link to connect with that highest goal. Whatever is necessary, we are ready to change. And it was after the advent of Buddha that practically Hinduism started worshipping the statues. Hinduism had no statues, Hinduism had no temples. But there was a way to worship, and that's why even our Upanishad, you may remember some very famous shlokas. There is a series of shloka in Vrihadaranyaka Upanishad. All the shlokas are of similar type. So one shloka, if I say, should be enough. Truth is that because of eyes are able to see, not which eyes can see. I repeat, that which eyes cannot see, but because of whom eyes are able to see, Tadeva Brahma, consider that as your consciousness or Brahman Atman. Tvam Viddhi, know that. Na idam yadidam upasate, not that which you are worshipping is God. God is not whom you are worshipping objectively. It is said in the Upanishad. So, then why we started worshipping the statues? But this is to be kept in our mind and which is said everywhere. Even when you all come to temple, you bow down, then you close your eyes. There is nobody in Hinduism who keeps on staring to the statue. Statue is a stimulus. Statue is something which is representing that personality or that truth. You close your eyes after paying your respect and try to see within your heart that the truth really exists in my heart. It is not outside. If it is outside, there was no reason for you to close your eyes. You meditate with closed eyes. You bow down with closed eyes. Reason is that you understand and realize that the truth is within. Truth was never outside. Truth is always within. We pray to Lord Buddha, Sri Ramakrishna, Mother Swamiji, and all the great prophets in incarnation who have come to this world and who would be coming to this world to take us, to push us one step forward towards the goal. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.